Hi everyone, welcome back to Backstage Chat Unfiltered. I'm super happy to be here today with you. Well, I'm super happy. I'm a bit tired, but that happens. We're in the music industry. That's a normal thing. Talked recently about how we all have dark circles around our eyes in our 20s. That's not normal. Whatever. So today I have with me two icons from the UK-based adjacent scene. That's you.
Yeah.
That's you, Laura. So we have LAURAVIOLI with us today.
Yeah, hi Leah.
As I like to call her, like the mayor of Liège.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, she does everything in Liège. You will learn more about it pretty soon. And we also have with us Pixi Exora, also known as Katia Val for maybe most of you. Hello.
Hi.
She's also one that's been shaping a pretty special sound for a decade now,
Yeah,
a bit more than a decade, and has had some special turns in her trajectory to where she is now. She started in Canberra in Australia, then moved to Paris, the Oui Oui Baguette city, and went to Berlin now as some of you know the big rat clubbing, 48 hours, raves, etc., etc.
72 hours.
72 hours, even more. So she's here now.
Yes.
And for some of you that don't know me, I'm Leah. I've been your host for a season now. It's the second one. It's the second episode of season 2. And we're going to talk today about a topic that I found quite interesting to discuss, as I am a city girl, but I want to discuss how being not from a big city can be an advantage or maybe a disadvantage. How can it shape your sound? How can it shape your trajectory within the industry, within your surroundings? So I just want to start asking you both, for you, do you think that living outside the city is a disadvantage or maybe a source of creative freedom?
From my personal experience, it was a disadvantage. I started, like you said, a decade ago, and so it was very different back then. And I felt very isolated because whenever I would say to people, you know, this is what I'm aspiring to do, or this is what I'm interested in, sometimes I would get weird looks. And I think I was the only person wanting to do this. And so I was, like, where I started, I was mostly alone. So I had to find events by myself, I had to find other people by myself. I never really found a community. But then again, this was before Instagram. This was before, I mean, yes, like Facebook, I guess, was the thing back then, but it wasn't, you know, doesn't operate the same way. And so, yeah, I personally found it quite isolating. What about you?
I think, yeah, for many people it can be seen as a disadvantage. But for me, I think I took it as a more like as a challenge, and now I see it as an advantage. So yeah, but at first, yeah, it can be quite like frustrating. But then when you just try to take what you can from like your own city and make like what you can to develop things there, and yeah, so I think it can be a positive thing. Yeah.
And to give context to people, Laura comes from Liège. Liège is technically a big city. It's not a small city. It's not in the small city. But as a electronic music, even bass, scene oriented thing, it's still not a center within the industry, and it's not a place where you have as many opportunities within venues, even the amount of people that would go out to those events, because usually that's what matters also. And for me, that's what I also mean by not being a big city in a music oriented way. It's as there's fewer people that would go to these things, or
The club scene is just like really small,
Yeah.
and we just only have like 2 or 3 clubs maximum.
yeah, even within the collectives or within what's going on. And also for you, Katja, at the time it was, you had just, well, kind of nothing from where you came from. But then after that you moved to another city in Australia.
Yeah, after being in Canberra for the majority of my life, I moved to Sydney because I felt like there could always be more. Like I started my DJ lessons and everything in Canberra. I frequently went to a local club. That was the only club that actually would play music outside of the top 40s, but I always just felt like there could be something more, and so I eventually I did move to Sydney. But Sydney is considered a major city, but still, because we're so isolated as a country, it's still a relatively small scene. Like I would say, like now it is bigger, it is growing. We have some amazing producers and music coming out of Australia, but especially 10 years ago, it was like a little techno community was tiny. So yes, I have Sydney and Melbourne, but still I would say it was quite small. So yeah, I went there afterwards.
And I want to ask you also, as you moved to Sydney, even, did you feel represented from figures that you could identify with? Did you find some people that were someone that you would aspire to be, or that could help you grow?
Personally, no. I moved there blind, just hoping to see and experience more, because when I was living in Canberra, like all I wanted to do was just discover new music and discover new sounds. And again, back then it was harder to find music, and so I was looking for these venues to provide me with a new experience where I didn't have that. And so I kind of just went in blind, and I just started going out by myself, to clubs, to parties, wherever, meeting new people. I didn't really have like a role model or anyone to aspire to be like. I just knew that I wanted to play music. It's hard to explain, but I just knew I wanted to play music. So yeah.
that does make sense to me. I think that probably does make sense. So Laura, and about you, how did you feel like, so you grew up in Liège, and there when you started to be interested in music, when was it, and did your sound shift, and also who were people that guided you to do what you do even?
Yeah, so actually I didn't grow up in Liège. I mean, not in the city center. I grew up in the countryside, so like 30 minutes away from Liège. And I think that also influenced like my sound, like at the beginning at least. So I think there's a big difference when you grow up like in the countryside, and like what kind of nightlife you experience like growing up in the countryside. Because for me, like the first like parties I would go to, it was like village village parties, and so there like DJs play like a lot of like commercial sound, like what you hear on the radio, and so like that really influenced like what I played when I started DJing. Also, of course, like some of you may know, like my dad is also a DJ, but we're like pretty like in different kind of like really different kind of scenes. He's like the typical like wedding DJs, playing like really commercial like radio stuff. So when I started, I was really influenced by that. So I actually started playing more like on the. I mean, it's a bit weird because I started really like in the queer scene in Brussels and Liège, but I used to play a lot of hip hop and R&B music and commercial stuff also, and Latino stuff, reggaeton. And then I slowly switched to like I discovered like new genre by just because I was like getting interested into like more like the electronic scene. So I discovered like the bass UK scene, but at first I really I think like I was really influenced by like like what my dad was also playing and what I heard like when I was a kid. And yeah, but your question was like
No,
representation.
it was exactly this, but
yeah.
I'm also wondering because then you also started your own collectives and you joined other collectives. What was it about? Did you start it because there wasn't anything like this at the time in Liège? Or did something push you to do it?
Yeah, I think that's something that I was missing in Liège. I mean, I was seeing that in Brussels, Antwerp, Ghent, there were a lot of queer and like women collectives with like women only or Flinta only lineup. And in Liège, we didn't have that at all. And also, I was like struggling to find my own place, like on the club scene in Liège. So I was like, okay, like what should I do if I want to play at this? Like, I remember I really wanted to play at Cultura, for instance. And I was like, okay, maybe I should just like throw my own party there and invite other like women DJs that I want to see, like invite in Liège, and then I just also play myself. And yeah, I think I created what I was missing in Liège. Yeah.
And that being said, I think that's very nice. That like in some ways there's different ways to approach being from a smaller place. It's like either you can aspire to push what you're doing into other scenes, maybe move away, but you can also create something. Of course, it takes a lot of energy. I don't want people to think that it's like also free or something, but there's so many different ways to do it. Because tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel sometimes when you create something that doesn't exist, and with an economy that's really different from the big cities and how it works, it can be kind of easier on the fact that there's nothing like such. It's like there's nothing similar, there's nothing that kind of concurrences it, but also it's like it doesn't come as an economy thing or a business opportunity. It comes as just like this is needed, we have to find community. So glad to hear this. And I'm wondering also for you, Katja, then, so you started music a while ago. How did the fact that you came from outside of the big cities shape your sound? What did influence it in a way that like you started producing maybe a certain way? Like also did the fact that you were outside of those places influence your way of doing it? Or did it start being more clear actually when you moved to the cities?
I didn't, to be honest, I didn't think about production at all when I started DJing. Like I didn't think that it was something I was capable of. I come from a very like, my family was always quite limiting in terms of, what you can and cannot do in life. So I never thought that this was something that would ever be achievable. So I didn't start actually making music until I moved to Melbourne, because I ended up moving there as well. There's a big reason why. And I was told that I had to make music in order to succeed. And I was like, oh, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, blah, blah, blah. And then I eventually was just like, let's just try it. And then I tried it. And then I was like, oh, this is actually really fun and I really enjoy this. And then I just kept making music. So sorry, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I wondered
like
also about your sound, like even not within the production, but within the DJing situation.
Okay.
Did your sound like got shaped before moving, or did it also change through the years? How do you see it?
Yeah, no, it did change before moving. So I was similar to you, like in Canberra, we had mostly, like the commercial clubs, and that's where you would go because when you're 18, that's where you go. And, I started with like EDM and all of that. And then I slowly kind of morphed into techno and started discovering techno. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting, but we don't have any here. So why don't we have any here? And then I started discovering more and more and more. And So I would say it was shaped quite early on, and I think that was also one of the reasons why I went to Sydney, because I was like, I need to hear more of this sound. I need to explore more of it, and there just wasn't anything going on, and I think I felt like I didn't have the community to try start something myself. Like, I was so new, I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah, I would say it was shaped quite early on, and then it just kind of progressed more and more and more as I kept moving through, and then I started my own collective, and then kept going, and now it is what it is now.
I think usually that's a thing that I but like learned recently. There's lots of DJs and producers that kind of decide willingly. Wow, that sounds so stupid. Like, I'm a city person. This sentence is already sounding very stupid. But like lots of people just decide to stay outside of the cities because they feel like it feeds their sound in a different way, because they don't have the pressure of the influence that it takes. Like, I'm thinking about example. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sind. I don't know if it's willingly, but like he works in his family's vineyard, and I feel like maybe it's like just a music person thing, like very spiritual, but it's like you can feel that it's not influenced by cars and like this type of things. It's just like you can feel when someone he's also influenced by nature. I'm thinking about Nelly that I saw played recently, and she lives in the Netherlands, I think Amsterdam, but she's always going to climb, like all the fucking time. She's going in nature, and I feel like there's an in-between that can happen, because so for you were moving to bigger and bigger cities, but I feel also at the end of the day not being in those centers can be a choice, even though you still live in the cities. Because for you, for example, Laura, so you play quite often in Brussels, even other big cities, and
actually it would be easier for me to live in Brussels because I play a lot in Antwerp, and so it would be easier. But I think I also like the fact of like staying like Laura from Liège, because people remember me like this way, and yeah, that's something that
And when you play in Liège, do you play differently than when you play in other cities? Do you feel differently?
I don't know if I play differently in Liège. I usually adapt a little bit depending on the venue, depending on the concept I'm playing, depending on the artists that are on the lineup with me. So I wouldn't say I play so differently in Liège. But it's true that sometimes in Liège I feel like the public can be a bit less open to like more. I mean, it really depends. It really depends on like venues, and yeah, like a part of the public is really open to like new sound and like more niche stuff, and some are not so. Yeah.
So it's more like depending on the concept of the party going on. It's not really the people that come from a special place, but still you would say it tends more to when it's not in big cities, people prefer more mainstream sounds.
I'm not sure, but I can see like really like the difference when like when I look at what's happening in Antwerp, for instance. They have like the opportunity to invite a lot of big UK artists, and people like the public know them, and they will be interested. And if we invite those artists in Liège, I think people won't know them. And I think maybe like I don't want to talk bad about Liège, but a little problem there is that a lot of people just want to go out, like to drink and see their friends, and like there is a little community which is really interested in music, but most of them just want to go out to drink, and yeah, and so, and I feel like that's something maybe different in Antwerp or Brussels. I'm not sure, but that's
Wow, that's very interesting. Yeah, I think that it's just the fact, as I've lived in Brussels my entire life, we have more people. So of course you have all those places where people want to get drunk, but the whole paysage is way wider. So
diverse more, yeah.
yeah, as you said, it's like the people that want to hear UK garage bass, they will know where to go. The people that want to hear deep techno, they will know where to go. The people that want to listen to down tempo, they will know where to go. And then every space has their crowd. But that's the thing going on with smaller cities. It's then there's fewer places you can go if you want to hear a bit different sound, but still it doesn't go well with everyone in the end.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, because I've had the same experience where I grew up as well. People just want to go out, and I completely understand that. So yeah, it wasn't much about music discovery. It was just about partying, which is fine. But yeah, sometimes you need that. You need more. But the interesting thing about Australia is that as well, like something that inspired, something that I've been wanting to talk about, and this is something that inspired me to create my collective, is because I know it's better now, but 10 years ago we had what I would like to call like a headline culture. So people would go out just to see the headliner and then forget about everybody else. And this was almost encouraged and, obviously promoted by the event organizers, and the local acts just completely got lost in the lineup. So you would sometimes have a big poster with the headliner's name in huge letters, and then down the bottom you would have "and support." And support consists of maybe 3, 4, 5 DJs, local DJs that are fantastic, that have great skill, that have been doing this for, I don't know, however long, maybe even 10 years. And yet they are still downsized to just "and support." And this broke my heart. And also this affected the way that people went out and partied. And this is something that I saw a huge gap there, because, the timetable would get posted, the headliner is this, the headliner plays at this time, people would come 5 minutes before the headliner, they would leave 5 minutes after the headliner. Locals, again, get forgotten, even though they're fantastic, and sometimes better than the headliner. And so you see, I saw this huge discrepancy, and I thought, like, no, this cannot be it. Because how are we expected, the ones that are passionate about music, how are we expected to develop our careers and, get further in this scene if we're just downsized to "and support"? And this was so frustrating to see. And so I wanted to create a collective that most of the time only featured local artists. And there was no headliner. It was just, here's the start, here's the end. This is everyone that's playing, and that's how it is. And it went fantastic. Like, had a first warehouse party, it sold out, and it was packed from beginning to end. And I thought, okay, so it is possible. And people did come to, explore the music and discover these artists. And it was so frustrating, because I was like, we have so much amazing talent in Australia, and it's just felt like it was getting buried. But like I said, it's better now. However, I was there 3 months ago, and I just feel like the headliner culture still exists a little bit. But it's better. So anyway, I just really wanted to talk about that, because it was such a frustrating experience.
But it seems like there's kind of 2 types of scenes within those lineups. It's like either you have the collectives or the free parties, and also in those this category, the women trans non-binary led things, and then you've got this usually male-oriented lineup culture. Because even I see her, like, we worked together in the past with Laura, and it's like, for you guys, it's, of course, you bring sometimes people that rarely come to your city, but usually you just propose a lineup that's like, okay, guys, you come for everyone, but you come for the concept, the idea behind the collective. You don't really sell the names more than you sell or than you ask for the community to gather, because we want the community. And I feel that's also what you're saying, Katja. It's when you were doing those warehouse parties, it was, of course, an answer to those other parties that were headliner focused. But it's also a way of being like, hey, we love music, we love people, we want to do our thing, and we want it to have meaning.
Yeah. I wanted to say something, and then I saw Stanislawa arriving, and now I'm like okay. Yeah, I think what I wanted to like, what is important for me to do, but Who's That Girl, for instance, is like always having like one headliner, but even if the headliner is just like, so I mean, just someone from Brussels, Antwerp, or France, or the Netherlands, but like midliner, I would say, and then always have like local artists, because it's just like they bring their community, they bring their friends, so it's like I can really see, like, depending on who, like which artist I invite, like which community is gonna come, which kind of public I'm gonna have. So I'm always like keeping like I always make sure to have like local artists on the lineup. And then, but yeah, that's true. I think for Who's That Girl, like last year I had like one like the second birthday party. It was like the lineup was not announced, and people came anyway, because I think they know what they're gonna have, even if like the music is quite diverse. We can start like with the reggaeton, Latino, R&B, and then end the night with like more rapid stuff, techno, drum and bass, or so it's super diverse. But there's just like something that people were also missing, and that they just, I think they really like the vibe, the energy, and so yeah, I think they're coming for like the concept and what, like the vibe, more than I mean, they're also coming for the DJs, but they trust. Yeah,
It's nice to see that there's a way you guys were and are able to shape also those places that have such like there's still so many things you can do actually there. So you can tell people, hey, this is the way it's gonna be, and you will always find people that follow you, which is kind of cool. And it's nice to hear, because still now I meet sometimes people that come from less centered cities within the music, and then they're always like, yeah, we don't have this, we don't have that, and then sometimes they start their thing, and it can take a while for people to hear about it. But when it's there, people want to go. And we talk a lot, of course, about the club culture, but the free party culture is still there and has always been there and will keep being there. And usually it's not in the big cities. It's actually outside. So it's like people want to hear the music. People are willing to learn about new musics and like get into it. It's just, yeah, try to do your thing. Find other people that you would do it with, because I feel like the hardest thing maybe for you would have been to be doing it alone. Like in those spaces, feeling like you're alone would be like the hardest situation. Like, did you feel at some point when you were in Liège that you were kind of left with yourself, or did you find other people pretty quickly?
Yeah, no, I think what I really like in Liège, and the reason why I stay in Liège, is because like you build a community like so rapidly, and also like you're like, it's quite easy to build like a strong professional network, and those people also become your friends quite rapidly. So it's just like really small, and everyone knows each other, and that's also something that I really like. But the connections are true. I mean, are real. You know, I feel like it's not so
businessy?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
It's more based on true appreciation of each other?
Yeah, I mean, that's my perspective, but maybe I see just things like in a positive way, but yeah.
And do you feel the same maybe when you were not in those big cities? Because after that, maybe we're going to talk about you moving to those big cities. But when you were not in this situation, or even when Australia was seen less as an important place for the deeper, the music, the trends, now as it is, did you feel that it was easier to connect with people in a true way?
Yeah, Yeah, especially when around the time when I started my collective, that's when I met some of the most amazing people, and it was so easy and natural to connect with people. And like most of us are all still friends, and yeah, it was one of the most wholesome times of my life, I would say. So I agree with everything you said. Like it's happened so naturally, and it's so honest and wholesome and cute, and yeah, I miss it.
And then after you moved to Paris during COVID, why did you actually move there? What was the reason on an artistic level that you wanted to be somewhere else? And was it as you thought it was gonna be?
I moved like 6 months before COVID, so yeah, almost before, and I think I just wanted to try something new, just for a little while. I had no intentions of staying. It was only supposed to be for just 1 year, just to go and have fun, explore, and then come back. And then I ended up staying. I got stuck there, and then all these personal things happened, and I just ended up staying there. I ended up joining an agency, which I never thought would ever happen to me. And so I thought, oh, okay, so like maybe this is something. So I didn't go there with a goal. I just went there to have fun and just to try it. It was actually funny. The reason why I chose Paris is because at one of my parties, there was this guy in the crowd, and we became friends. And he's like, "Oh, I'm from France. I'm from Paris. Got a pretty cool scene there. Do you wanna like, you should go try it sometime?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Why not?" And so I went there. It was an experience, and it definitely shaped the way. The direction that my whole career went. But yeah, I didn't go there with any plans or any goals or anything like that, because I didn't think that this was ever possible for me.
And so as you went with no intention, the fact that you were there, did you start building some expectations actually within your career? Was it less organic than it was before?
Yes, because I guess I did have some expectations later on. I thought that because I had such a wholesome, beautiful experience in Sydney building a community, I thought maybe it would be similar. But I found out that, well, for me personally, it wasn't. I know other people have succeeded in building communities there. I haven't. And I think that was around the time when Instagram kind of started getting really big, and people started posting like clips of themselves DJing and everything, and everything kind of started to shift. And this was quite anxiety inducing, because that's not what I was used to or how I started. And yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but I found it personally quite difficult to build a community there. But maybe my expectations were too high. I don't know.
And I don't think that's too high. Like I feel that the it's not normal, but that's the way it goes when people start moving to bigger cities, because it's like there's so many things happening that when you're not part of it, you feel like you're not doing anything right. When actually at some point you came from a place where you didn't have gigs. Gigs was not the thing happening when you made music. You made music because you liked it. You played music because you liked it. You were just happy to have 5 people in front of you dancing, like even if it was someone from your friend group, your family, just vibing on sound that you found or that you made or whatever. It was also just a fun thing to do and a way to express yourself. And for many, the fact of moving to the big cities, it's like there's a pressure growing that's kind of natural within the body and spiritually how you feel. And tell me if I'm wrong, but then so you moved to Paris, you started in an agency, you started having more gigs, you also started producing music there.
A little bit before, like I started producing before I left.
Okay, and do you feel even on that aspect that like when you entered this scene in France, did your sound shift in a certain way?
Yeah, as soon as I got to France, I realized how much harder and faster the music was. It was quite intense around, what was it, like 2019, early 2020. And so I felt the need to also go harder and faster. I don't even remember if that's what I wanted to do at the time. I just felt so much pressure that that's what I had to do. And it never felt, like, especially in the beginning, it didn't feel hard or fast enough. Like sometimes people would come up to me and be like, play faster. And I'm like, I can't. And I think that's, yeah, it really did shape my sound and the direction that I went in. And yeah, it was the complete opposite of what it was like back home.
And for you, Laura, do you want to add anything about this run to the fastness of the music?
Yeah, I think as you said, like for instance in Brussels, you have like so many things happening and so many DJs, and I think that's maybe also the reason why I decided to stay in Liège, because maybe in a way that's easier to, I'm not sure about what I'm gonna say, but to stand out when you are like from a little city. When, I mean, there are also plenty of DJs in Liège, but it's just different. And so like then once you did your thing in Liège and once you stood out, yeah, then you can get out of Liège. And yeah, I don't know, it's just like I feel maybe it's sometimes easier to, yeah, when you're not like in the middle of a big city with like so many DJs around. And I mean, I took it as an advantage for in this, yeah.
And as now you've been growing and moving more to the big cities, I would say in the past 2-3 years, do you feel that what you're doing on a personal level, do you feel more legitimate as as a DJ?
Yeah. I think now that I play a lot outside of Liège, I get like some recognition and more validation from like the people in the industry in Liège, because I play outside of Liège. And it's like there are not so many artists in Liège who play like out of Liège. So yeah.
And are you like, so it's like for you, the value you add to your music, I'm not saying that in a shady way, it's like how you feel, it's like it has more value than when you move outside of this place you grew up in, and then when other people start, because you say in Liège you feel more recognized, but then when you go to the bigger cities, do you also feel legitimate there, or is it like a double-sided situation?
Yeah, no, I'm starting to like feel more legitimate also in other cities, but yeah, it's not the same, not, yeah.
And how did you feel, Katja, about it also?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you do get the opportunity to play in bigger cities, like people do start recognizing you for it. It's, yeah, I don't know if I like that that's the way it is, but I guess that's the way it is, isn't it? Like you've played in Berlin and Paris, and they're like, oh my God, you played in yeah, but it's just another club, you know. It's, yeah.
Yeah, what you're both saying, it's like, I think what most of the people think, and I'm so mad that everybody thinks like it, because I'm just like, you guys were great, and I'm not saying it as like, I appreciate you both, but it's like, you guys and everyone, like, I hope, of course, we're in a capitalistic society, and that's like something we're trying to fight. But I feel like your art, your music, your way of approaching things was already good before. It's just, it sucks so much that there is this validation that has to come from bigger, not bigger people, but people that are more important, have more power. Well, usually economic power, that's the thing. It's like, do they have more things wired in their brain? Do they understand what you were doing before? Because it's always this thing that I'm wondering. I'm like, people have been doing great music forever, and they are recognized just the moment it starts being mainstream, or like people start appropriating it much more. Every year I'm checking the festivals lineups, and I'm checking the club lineups, and I think 2 years ago, I started noticing that there was way more drum and bass on the main stages. Way more drum and bass, way more bass on the main stages. Well, bass has been there for a while. It has been on the front of the scene a bit more also this past, I don't know, like for the past 20 years, it has still not been the nichest music, but now it becomes more marketable. But it was great before. Like, I would say, like, you both agree because you also came from a scene where you really enjoyed drum and bass.
Yeah, I love it.
So it's like, I'm not providing solutions here. I'm just sharing a thought. I'm just like,
It's just facts.
yeah, it fucking sucks. I'm so mad, and I'm just wondering because at the end of the day, we see also so many artists getting burnt out from having to wait for a validation because the validation is not always going to come. And when the validation comes, if you don't feel like yourself, then it can fuck you up so bad. And I feel, and I'm happy like for you, even every time you're like, no, I don't plan on moving from Liège. I'm so happy to hear this because I'm like, please don't. Like, this is where you have your group that you know is sticking to you because they appreciate you, they appreciate what you do, even though they will not understand every music that you play. Like, none of our friends understand everything that we do. That's okay. But it's like there's meaning in doing things that are not centered in the big cities. The meaning is sometimes and usually way deeper. And I feel like it's always like gaslight yourself a bit to think that what you're doing is important. If it's important to you and you feel like it's providing something for others, then it can be important. Of course, the Lulu is not always the Sululu. Like, you have to like have some how do you say this? Like to not be too much egocentric. But yeah, it's just annoys me so fucking much. I don't know what the solution could be about this. Like, to see all those people that love doing music and then they can't anymore.
But it's interesting, you talking about validation. Like, I feel like when I started, I wasn't looking for validation because there were no sources to get validation from other than just like, okay, maybe you play a gig here and there, but like you didn't have Instagram. You didn't have to perform. That's the thing. Like, you didn't have to perform. So I was completely delulu. I was like, oh, I just like this music and I think people should hear it. And that's literally all that it was. But I think now your head is completely fucked up with all of these like external pressures of social media and everything, and you're like, oh, but I need to get validation from this to get bookings here, and you know, where before it was just like, oh, I just like music and I want to play. And so I think that is also a huge problem, but that's a different issue. But yeah, maybe you wanted to say something.
No, I totally relate. I also feel the same, and with social media, always seeing like everyone having like super nice gigs and playing everywhere, and then you're like, oh my god, I have almost like for me right now, I had like one of the biggest gig in my career like 1 month ago, and now I have almost nothing for the coming months, and I'm like, what's happening? And I'm just like, it's just like, yeah, it's so weird, and it can really feel like you're just like, am I still like good? People do still want to book me, and you start like questioning yourself, and you're like, okay, I just have to continue like working a lot to be able to continue have those bookings that I want to have. And yeah, but it can be like super hard, like seeing everyone like on social media, and you're just like, I have nothing for the 2 months. But yeah.
I'm also thinking, do you really actually need to work, as you say, more? Because you had this big, so it was a gig where you played in front of thousands of people with Fred again and other legends from the local scene. And of course, that's a milestone, as you... It's always like this, that we picture the story. It's like you come from Liège,
especially,
and then, it's like
yeah.
You come from this place that's kind of hidden, and then you get to do this thing and be super visible.
And and I was super proud to be like from Liège at that time, and I know like a lot of people from Liège were also super proud to have an artist like coming from Liège on this stage. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted
No,
you.
it's exactly this.
Yeah.
It's like you were super proud, and you can be proud for as long as it takes. Because the thing is, like, of course, it's a person that is important now on the scene,
Mhm.
but what you do is still great, even though you don't have this, and it's still great even though you don't have gigs. And that's on a personal level. That's an agent work I do a lot. It's just like reminding people I work with, like the scene, music, the way bookings work, the way you're gonna evolve with your art. The thing is, art should not be something that you market. If we talk and if we speak in a bigger, again, spiritual. I said spiritual a lot in this episode, but in a bigger spiritual way, that should not be something you market. Art is supposed to be an answer to. An answer to how you feel, an answer to the society, to something you want to say. It's just your way of expressing yourself. That's a way that's not really fitting in the conventional way of doing things, but it's still your way of doing it. And that's why what scares me usually with people that have not broken the glass ceiling of celebrity, and mostly with DJing, because I still find it so scary that DJs now are superstars. But it's like having your art as your main job sometimes can scare me, because then you see people questioning their worth. And when you both came from a place of love for music, wanting to share, at some point now you're questioning your worth because you don't have a booking coming in, when now there's so many DJs. And I think that's great, because now you don't have to be a white male to be a DJ. You don't have to create a genre to be a DJ. You can just be a DJ because you want to be a DJ, or be a producer because you have something on your laptop that makes you able to do music like this. And yeah, it's like your art is worth it anyway. What you're doing is worth it. And so many of my friends now, they're like, fuck, I had so many gigs for a month. Now I have nothing. Like, I have to post more. I have to. What the fuck why do you have to post more?
The problem is that like success is measured by the number of gigs that you have, and yeah.
But to me, it's short-term success. Because
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
mind, it's like, and I see it, and I think that's still something. I don't know if I said this in a past episode. I feel like it's easy to compare yourself to people who have the space to just do art to do it. And that's still something you can research. Sociological situation about, like, most of the people, for example, that start painting as their job come from money at first. Like, you have to be in a certain safe, you have to be in a comfortable place financially, usually, to be able to do your art freely and not feel a pressure and not start shaping yourself according to what society, what labels, what agents tell you. And that's why I'm always like, please, guys, stop comparing yourself. Stop thinking that you have to do more reels, that you have to drop a new track. And I'm gonna get follow about this, because I was at Paris Electronic Week. I heard people saying like, yeah, now albums don't work anymore, EPs don't work anymore. People want to see that you drop new tracks, they perform well, and then they will book you. So yeah, on the paper, that's how it works. But in 10 years, in 5 years, in 2 years, in like 30 years, how will you be comfortable and proud of what you're doing when, of course, there's DJs that are not artists. There are DJs that are DJs. There's different ways of approaching it. But when you're an artist, how do you think you're going to feel at some point?
I think, I mean, for me, like, it's important is just like doing things that make sense for you, like, just, yeah. And for me, like, developing things in Liège and working to just like develop things that I want to see in Liège, that's something that makes sense. And so that's why,
I wanted to ask you, like in Liège now, is it like the way that people get bookings and the way that people, you know, DJs and artists get recognized, is it mostly through word of mouth? Because like when I first started, you know, there was no Instagram or anything like that. It was literally just word of mouth. Like you play at a party, somebody talks about you, they mention you to their mate books you at another party like 2 months later. And that's just how it was. It was just this very natural progression. And it was actually quite nice. Is it like that now? Or is it still like very social media heavy?
I would say both, yeah, because the community is so small that you get to know like everyone like so quickly. So yeah, but Instagram still plays a lot of. I mean, yeah, I don't know how much time we have left, Leah.
I wanted to check with you because we've spoken a lot, and that was very interesting. I hope not too depressing in some aspects, but it's like I hope people find the nuance in what we just said, because that's what's important, and I want to encourage people to just do what they do because they love it. And it's always hard when you don't find yourself. It's hard to find yourself. Like even what does finding yourself mean in this life? And I want to see with you, like, and kind of a wrapping it up way. Do you think that being central in 2025, being in the big cities in 2025, really is necessary?
No.
No, me neither. Yeah, I think it's completely changed now. Yeah,
even for you now, you're in Berlin, you were in Paris. Like for you, it wasn't the fact of being there that's kind of that you would have still or even made something different if you weren't there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. So I guess that maybe building away from center isn't isolation. It can be freedom.
Yes, also, and to all of those people in the smaller towns, please go out and support your local DJs and try to stay from start to end, because you never know what you might find. Yep, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree. Usually, and again, more like now I find more meaning listening to music from people that don't want to prove themselves. And I think I explained it wrongly before, but that's what I meant with people that come from comfortable financial backgrounds, because sometimes in those categories you can really get transported, because those people, they don't have to think about, like, they don't stress over some stuff that will make them unable to just do what they want to do with the music. But also in another way, if you struggle, that's also interesting, because then well, I don't encourage struggling, like, this is not what I mean. I think see the nuance, please, but it's like you will come from wherever you come and you will do whatever you do, and please don't compare yourself still, but try to see what's going on around you as a bigger picture than just what it is. And I think that's it. I guess that if anyone has questions of comments to do about it, please put them on SoundCloud or YouTube.
Also, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I mean,
yeah, I think that's great. It's like, but usually don't hesitate to reach out to anyone. Like, just send a message to DJs. They're people. Like, they're real people, guys. They're not just music boxes. They can do hard things. And I wanna thank you both for being there with me, for talking with me. You guys were amazing, and I wanna encourage people to go see you both. So this is LAURAVIOLI, the mayor of Liège. This is Pixi Exora, someone that moves a lot, but moves you a lot with her music too. And I'm Leah. I will leave you to 2 hours of Soria playing some delightful ambient and ambient adjacent sounds. Thank you all, and see you in 2 months. Bye.
thank you. Bye.